Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it's time to do kind of a review on the first season of World War Mode. Now that it's over, it finished yesterday night, Recon Under Fire, I thought I would go through a lot of the thoughts that I have personally on the mode itself and, maybe ways to improve it, maybe things that are done well, maybe things that, could need a little bit of help, all of this stuff. My overall thoughts are very positive. The fact that it's the first style of game mode which has actually felt like squadrons mean something. I know a lot of people will point towards squadron battles, but for me, squadron battles were very much just a small, basically if you had like 20 people who were incredibly good, you could do well in squadron battles. Whereas when you look at World War Mode, you need around about 60 plus people if you want to play it correctly. So it's just a mode which promotes squadron play a hell of a lot more. They obviously put a lot of resources into the prizes they were giving out, and also, the operations themselves, and the way that the command aspect worked was also incredibly good. Like, it was overall a great experience. I personally just want to thank everyone who was involved in the TechES squad, and hopefully, a lot of you will join us for the second season as well. I think at least the people that I've talked to have had very positive feelings about it. The fact that as a new squadron set up for this, we were able to get top 50 with one of the highest win rates out of all squadrons, with the best KDs, with the most kills, and with, basically we had, I think we're in like the top 10 win rate wise for battles and also for victories. We were top 2 or 3 when it came to, other things like... I think personally it was a successful season for a first lot of people who haven't really been involved in like the competitive side of War Thunder before. So definitely a learning experience, and some things that we'll go into today which hopefully will be sorted out for next season so we don't run into some of the same issues. But as I said, the general idea for me is this was very positive. I know a lot of people are looking down on World War Mode. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about it and how it actually works. I've tried my best to cover it in a way so people understand what's going on with it. It seems like there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of misunderstanding, and the fact is, I think a lot of it comes down to you need to open up your squadrons. Like, if you are struggling for numbers and that is your main issue, we'll bring more people in. Like, it's not hard to do. Just fold in 3 squadrons into one. That would solve like 90% of the issues that people have. So I've written a list of stuff to basically go through and, either critique or try and fix, or stuff like that, because I think, it's correct to do so, especially since this was its inaugural season. Why not go through some things that I think need to be changed or, which were good. So the first one, as I've already said, lovely to have a large-scale communication and mode for squadrons. So the way that we set it up, we had 3 squadron sets of 20, plus the command structure on top of it. It worked incredibly well, and it was all done through, the Tech Hub Discord. So if you want to get involved in the next season, that's where you have to, go to make sure to set everything up. All of the requirements are at the top of the Discord to join TechES. And also, it was just nice to first have a command structure set up, which meant more than what you find in squibs or more than what you find in a tournament mode. Instead of having to rely on one individual, there were several individuals all working together in unison, and then you had everybody under them making sure to win the battles. It was just great. It was wonderful to be part of the structure and to see in a game like War Thunder, which I personally have seen as a game which is a team game but run by individual players. What I mean by this is individuals in War Thunder can have a massive impact in the game, and in random battles there is definitely not a lot of teamwork. Even in squadron battles, there's not a ton of teamwork compared to stuff like World War Mode. So to see a mode which much more focuses on that is a hell of a lot more interesting for me. So yeah, I'm very, very happy to see it. And then obviously it's nice to have different battle types. I'm looking forward to seeing an expansion on them. The fact that if we have a look here, because I was playing a lot of World War Mode yesterday to get my individual rating up. You know, you have defense missions, you have offensive missions, AA defense missions, convoy missions where you either have to attack or defend them. You know, there are different units that you have to destroy when it comes to, you know, what you're actually attacking. You have obviously the AT guns and stuff like that around. You have normal domination missions. A lot of things that people have been asking for a long time in the game is different game modes. And there are now, in World War Mode, a bunch of different game modes. So, you know, you can go and play them, and you can play them on both sides of the bracket. If you don't like offensive missions, where you have to, you know, capture a point, just go play the other side and play the defensive side. Or if you like being an aggressor in a convoy mission, you can be the aggressor. Or if you like to be the defender, you can be the defender. You know, there's a lot of choice in World War Mode and what you want to play, and it all comes down to the individual. So, you know, as I've said many times, like over many years, I've heard people talking about, oh, we need more game modes in War Thunder, we need more stuff to do. Well, here you go. There's already a ton of it, and it's sat there in World War Mode. All you've got to do is go and play it. The next one, as I said, it would be nice to see more of an expansion on them. The general battles that we've seen so far, especially the air domination, normal domination, the defense and offense, the convoy stuff, it's all great. You know, it's nice to have a bit of variance. I hope that it gets expanded upon in different areas. I'm sure it will. Right, I'm sure that there will be different battle types which are added to the game alongside this. And yeah, so I'm personally looking forward to that in a big way. The next one is it's nice to have a different mode which involves a whole squadron instead of a select few, and different battle types are good, gets rid of the monotony of random battles. Of course, playing random battles, you only really have two types. If you play ground, which is what this mode is mainly focused around, you know, ground and air, you either have domination, or you have the battle game mode, or you have the single domination mode. Conquest, I think it's called. And therefore, you can get on the same map over and over and over again, whereas in World War Mode, you can pick and choose, you know, what maps you go onto, and also, you know, what you get to play. There's a lot more user choice in it, which is obviously a hell of a lot better for the individual, not so much for the squadrons, which is something we'll get into in a bit. But it means that you have, you know, you can get rid of that monotony, which is getting Advance to the Rhine 3 times in a row, you know, with the 3 cap, or getting Kursk like 4 times in a row. That can be annihilated by World War Mode, where you can play it. The next point is the matchmaking abuse issues. So I'm going to use an example here. This example is not designed to create a witch hunt on this specific squadron. This is not designed to say this was the sole individual squadron that was doing it. This was just one squadron, which is very much easy to prove that it was done maliciously, which is the issue with it being able to abuse a system. So just understand that the example I'm going to be using here, I do not want the squadron itself to be gone after, because I don't think there is a reason to. Technically, they are just using the matchmaking system to their advantage in this regard, right? It's as simple as that. So I'm not going to say that, you know, these people should be harassed. I actually believe the opposite. I believe it would be much better to leave them alone. They're incredibly good players, and I hope that the system itself is fixed, so therefore we don't have these issues in the future. So one thing we realized in the first few operations that we were doing was that there was going to be matchmaking abuse issues even before the season started. And the reason for this is because you can take a platoon of people and put yourself in another person's operation. So from a squadron point of view, what you can do, you can hit the operations list and you can platoon up. You know, if you let's say just pick a bunch of people and create a platoon around you, then you can click, let's say you've got a squadron, I'm not sure which one, but let's just use this as an example. You've got Paris versus HKD, right? Let's say you go into this battle and you realize that Paris, who has 121 members, and HKD, who has like 70, but let's say you find out that these guys are not putting a ton of people into their battles from their squadron. What you can do as an 8-man is go and play on their behalf in the operation. So you can see how this can be abused, right? You could have a squadron of, let's say, 20 people, which is the minimum for World War mode, and they could create battles and get another squadron to fight for them. What this means is that squadron can get individual ratings for themselves, and also they can be able to destroy the enemy squadron without having to, put up any without having to lose any points. So because of how the elo system works, if you are on top of this elo system, well, let's say you're in the top 10 here, then there is no reason for you to play a battle, so you just go into other people's battles and screw them over so they can't get into the top 10. And you can either do this by spawning on their side and making sure they lose battles, or what you can do is go on the enemy side and try and beat them for other squadrons. So this is where sister squadrons or squadrons which are friendly can abuse other squadrons if they don't have the players available. And also on top of this, what you could do is you could just completely screw with the matchmaker by doing this. So the example I'm going to use is Think. We ran into Think in the first Battle of Vitebsk, which was right here. We actually beat them. It was a good victory, both sides played pretty well. We pretty much won because our tactical game was much more on point. We were much more attuned to how Vitebsk worked. Now, the issue that happened during that battle is we had a platoon of people from another squadron which joined one of our matches, and we're like, well, this sounds a bit odd. And then we went on to play some other matches, mainly this one against Ofnir. Now this, as you can see, is on Operation Nordwind. Operation Nordwind, and the one that we played was, if you have a look here, it was this one, so the second operation day on the 18th. We played this, we beat Ofnir, which is good, but this was one of our battles against Ofnir. So as you can see, Operation Nordwind, number 2588, battle number 25. This is Ofnir, and then you have Operation Nordwind, number 2588. Number 2588, as you can see, and then number 2588 here. So this is a battle within this operation. So we're facing the squadron Ofnir in this operation. But we're not. We're actually facing Think. Because Think platooned up to go against us. Do you see the issue here? Where you have one squadron which you are actually fighting in the operation, but you're not actually fighting them on the battlefield. Instead, what is happening is another squadron is front-loading that operation, so you're actually fighting them. And in this situation, for Think, there is no downside here if they win or lose the battle, because it doesn't affect their squadron rating. Instead, what it does is it just means that in this situation, only we can lose and Ofnir can gain. Unless we beat Think, which of course we are gaining, right? But we shouldn't be facing them in the first place, because they're technically not the squadron we're fighting in this situation. So this is the matchmaking abuse I'm talking about, where even, let's say we swap the sides, right? So let's say that Think are facing Ofnir, and we decide, as, our 60-man squadron, we're going to fight all the battles for Ofnir. So we just front-load the whole damn thing with all of our players to face Think. And since, as, in the first operation, we were able to beat them, and then if we did it in the second operation, they lose, the battle, then they would go down in rankings and we wouldn't lose anything from that. This is a part of the matchmaking system which can be completely abused, right? And it's all because you have this all battles button, you can see all the active battles, or as an individual, you can literally just go to the operations list and you can just pick one and take part on whatever side you want to face, the squad that you want to face. Now, as I said, this is an inherent issue in the matchmaking system. This isn't an inherent issue with Think. Now, where does the malicious part come in? This is the problem when you decide to stream your stuff. So this is Copsy. If you don't know who Copsy is, I've had a chat with him at least once. He seems like an alright dude. A little bit competitive, but what do you expect? He's in a competitive squadron that got battered in the Thunder League, so they're probably a bit annoyed. The main thing is that he seems like a good lad. He seems, as I said, very competitive and has, a decent set of values behind him. But this is a stream clip from his stream where they are talking about doing this, right? So, I'll let it play.
Come play as well, Earth.
A game.
I don't know. I'm just gonna wait here until what do.
Oh, they're playing, dude. They're actually playing. What? European Canadian squadron's playing. Let's go sabotage them, dude.
Let's fuck them up. Let's go.
25
we need to make some squads.
Oh, bruh.
We need to make some squads.
Yeah, make some squad.
Invite me.
Guys, I told you, just remember
Helps
that
invite everyone.
Yeah, I can't. It's processing
if you
operation.
continue like this, there will be nobody
No,
to
make
play.
a battle group.
Are we gonna?
Come play.
Right, so, as you can see, and if you want a link to this, I'll leave it in the description, this is members of Think who are planning, or, well, not planning, they actually did it, as shown here, or at least tried to. The problem is they lost. So, let's just say the result wasn't perfect, but the intent was malicious. They said that they were going to sabotage us. They were coming into our games to try and beat us in this mission so we would lose against Offnet. Now, it didn't work because our squad did really well, but the main thing is the system is set up so they can do this. It means that bad actors are able to come in and try and abuse the system. So for me, I would rather the system changed. So if you are squadded up, or if you are in platoons, or even if you are individuals, you can't front load operations like this for other squadrons, because this means technically you could have a roaming set of 60 members who could boost more than one squadron into the top 10 or top 20, which aren't their own squadron. And then, guess what? Just don't play another match because of the ELO system, and you just sit there. So for me, I don't like it how people who are there to sabotage, in their own words, are able to do it within the system. But I don't think they should be punished. I think that the system should be changed. It's as simple as that. So that's one of the biggest issues that we personally had while doing World War Mode. What we were doing is we were coming up against platoons of other squadrons that were trying to make us lose. And as I said, there is no penalty for doing this at all. And if you're in the top 25, it made sense to do it. And that is the one biggest issue. Automatic battles. So automatic battles is a thing that happens. I'm not completely sure why it happens, but it seems to mainly happen with like air-to-air stuff, like if you have like bombers versus fighters, and it's a way that you can easily tie up troops if you want to, and the way that automatic battles work, I believe, is that they can last from anywhere from 4 to 10 minutes. So you can just tie up a bunch of planes or a bunch of forces for an extended period of time, and also you can lose those battles. We had a mission on El Alamein, right, this one right here, where we were playing the German side. And what happened was, because of the German side, we were trying to use stuff such as, BF-109F4s and Ju-88s to try and stop the advance. But the guys that we were facing, I can't remember who it was, they were throwing Blenheims into our BF-109s, and because it was an automatic battle, our BF-109s were losing to Blenheims, right? Like, stacks of 30 to 40 BF-109s were losing to stacks of 20 or 30 Blenheims in a one-on-one fight. Like, that's ridiculous. That should never happen. But because it's an automatic battle, because you cannot control it, stuff like that is going to happen because there are other factors involved. So I personally don't like automatic battles. I understand why they're a thing, because if you have a ton of battles going on at once, you want some to be sorted. But they did just make a recent change to World War mode where if battles are kind of stagnating for more than half an hour, then they'll just start them. I think that's personally a good change and could be put into automatic battles as well to get them done. The next one is to not have convoys need to take tight turns in crowded areas, such as the Volcalamps convoy. They'd get stuck by the church, and what you could do is 1 or 2 planes, you could kill the whole vehicles. What was happening is on convoy missions on Operation Northwind, where, Volcalamsk was, if you know the Volcalamsk map, there's a map which has a central church on it. It's a domination point map. And what was happening is one of the convoy missions is set through that map. And what the convoy has to do is it has to go by the church and around. Now, what happens around the church is if one vehicle slightly either loses its pathing or doesn't know where to go, the whole convoy clumps up next to the church, so therefore you can drop like 2,000 pounders, which is what you could do with the P-51, and annihilate the majority of that convoy. Like, we were clearing convoys on that map in 2 to 3 minutes, meaning that we were destroying tank battalions in 2 to 3 minutes. That is not something that should happen. That is kind of ridiculous. So, but that is an issue with AI pathing on convoys, and I do think it needs to be improved, because we were having the same issues on the Hertgen Forest maps yesterday on the Battle for Khan, which was it the Battle for Khan? Or was it? I think it was the Battle for Khan. But anyway, yeah, we were having the same issues with these battles where, you would have a few units at the front, and I had a Sherman which turned into a wall and it got stuck on the wall for a bit and then forced its way through the wall and then hit a house. Right, like the pathing is definitely an issue with the air convoys, and it makes it a hell of a lot harder as a defender to make sure that you keep the convoy alive. You are much better as a defender to try and shoot down all of the enemy planes than you are to try and escort your convoy to the end. So that is definitely an issue. The next one is every player mattered and teamwork was more important than solo skill. One thing that we don't see in areas of War Thunder, such as the tournament scene, I mean, we do a little bit, but, in the tournament scene and definitely squadron battles, even though these areas are supposed to be, much more, well, not much more, but some of it is supposed to be team-focused, like the 4-on-4s or the larger ones, and the squadron battles. For me, I felt that World War Mode was the first place where if you worked as a team and coordinated, you could beat people who were more skilled than you. Like, as I said, Think, right? Think are an incredibly skilled squadron. They are some of the best players in the Western world when it comes to War Thunder. When it comes to the Russians, though, they get battered. But the main thing is, Think as a Western squadron, if you want to see them like that, are incredibly good, right? The thing is, they lost to us because of tactics and because of communication that we had between our squadrons. And that, to me, it shows that it isn't just about individual skill. Like, yes, if you have full-on teams against each other, there's going to be an element of skill which is involved in it. But at the end of the day, if your tactics are superior, you'll have such an advantage in this mode, you will do well. So I'm incredibly happy that that is emphasized in this mode. The next one is there were definite issues with certain maps being not balanced. Some attacking maps were rough, but you kind of expect that. And obviously convoy missions, as we said before, they had issues with their AI pathing and also the way that they clumped up. What was happening if with an AI mission, like there was one on Normandy map where the convoy spawned on the western side and it had to get up a hill at the start of a convoy, and what would happen is if the Focke-Wulfs or whoever were bombing, if you destroyed the first few vehicles of that convoy while it was cresting the hill, the rest of the convoy would get confused and just sit there. So you could bomb them to infinity without having them to move at all. So what was happening was exactly that. You know, it was easy to clear convoys if you got that initial hit off, which wasn't too hard to do. You know. Also, I found an issue personally where a lot of if a machine exploded from like an ammo explosion and its turret popped off and its turret fell in front of another AI machine, the AI machine would not be able to move because it wouldn't be able to work out how to get around the turret, or it would be trying to work it out but it would be struggling, right? So once again, that's a path finding issue, and it's just kind of funny like when stuff like that happened. We also had instances which were a bit odd where random AI convoy members would just blow up. And it would seem like, I don't know whether it was a graphical glitch, like they weren't showing fires, or, you know, they were having, or maybe silent munitions was going off, like maybe bombs or something. But there were a lot of instances where certain tanks, like Achilles, were happening a lot on the Battle for Khan, where they would just randomly die, which was very much odd to me. The next one is the changing wiki throughout this season. So this was exemplified mainly by one thing that happened today. And thank you to everyone who pointed it out to me. Mainly, let's make sure I get your name right because I always get it wrong. Let's go here. Padikafus, which I'm sure I said it wrong, so I apologize, bud. But thank you for pointing it out this morning. The most egregious change for the wiki was for the Spitfire F Mark 9C, right? So if you look on the wiki, what is kind of nice about it is that there's an area where it tells you about, you know, the older revisions and stuff like that. Like you can see the older versions of the wiki, right? You can see them right here, and you can go through each of the history of the wiki. So what is nice about this is it means that you can see when stuff was edited, and since it archives the old, the old web pages, you can see when stuff is changed. Now this was a change today. So if you have a look here, this was from the May the 14th to, well, never mind, this is just for the season, but this was earlier today. You can see that, wait, have I screwed it up? I might have screwed it up here. Yeah, here we go. So this was earlier today. As you can see, place on the leaderboard for all players for the Spitfire F Mark 9C coupon, 501 to 2,000, right? So these are the people who get the Spitfire F Mark 9C. Now today, that was edited to 501 to 1,500. Right, and if you want to see this in a video, one of the videos where I going over Recon Under Fire, you can see in my video, which obviously is dated, has the 500 to 1,500. So this isn't just a glitch in the matrix or anything. This is, they changed it today without notifying anyone. So because of that, people could see this on the wiki. And if they finished like 1800 and they didn't want to grind anymore yesterday, they could have been like, oh, okay, I'm safe. You know, I don't have to worry about, missing out on my Spitfire F Mark 9. But if you go into the game and go to best players of the season, and then you go to rewards, you'll find that it's just the top 1,500 for the Spitfire Mark 9C. And this hasn't changed the whole time, right? This hasn't changed at all. This has always been like this. But the wiki was wrong, right? As you can see. It was wrong until today when it was edited. And it is shown to be edited today by the link here, right? It was edited right here by Inceptor57, and they corrected the numbers as is put. So and just remember, one of the big things about World War Mode that we've been pushed to do is to check the wiki constantly to make sure that we knew exactly what was going on with everything, right? Like that was one of the main things that we were told as a community to do. So the fact that you're changing it near the end, especially if people have already fought for these prizes, and these are not explained anywhere else apart from in-game, if you check the rewards tab, then that's a little bit fishy to me. And I don't like that, and I hope that in the future, mistakes like this do not happen. Because you're going to have a lot of people who are in that bracket of 1,500 to 2,000 who are going to feel cheated because of the fact that they read something somewhere and it changed. It's the same issue that we've seen with the M60. It is also the same issue that we're probably going to see with the PGO2 or the PGO3, whatever it is, in a few months when they change its fire rates because of historical accuracy. So it just, goddamn, make sure that these are correct before they go out. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of annoyed people, as we're seeing today. And I think it is rightly justified, right? Because this change has come out without a specific edit, apart from in the history section that you have to look at. So, yeah, what I would personally do, I would just say, okay, the top 2,000 get the Spitfire F, right? Simple as that. You know, since it said on the wiki, and that's what you were working off, we'll give it to you, right? But obviously, I'm not in control of that. But I feel like this is going to annoy a lot of people. And to be honest, I'm not too annoyed by it. But as I said, I can definitely see why people would be annoyed. The next one is the patches for battles coming out a few hours before the operation starts. This actually personally affected our squadron quite a lot. And it meant that we lost 2 key battles that we shouldn't have lost. And it was because this was posted around about 3 to 4 hours before an operation happened. So this is from Stoner. It was posted on the Tuesday, this Tuesday, and they had some El Alamein changes. So El Alamein comes around. We decided to play the German side because what we saw, even though we played the British side last time, it was hard to push through the front line, and if you move the front line back, you could easily create a defensive front. And we thought, because we had the victory rates, as I said before, if you have a look at like the leaderboards, and then maybe not victory rates because it's hard to see, but if you look at like people destroyed, we're second for that, and then we're 5th for the AI destroyed. I think we have the most respawns, or the second most respawns, but you can see how high our victory rate is in both categories, like 85% and 72% when it comes to our battles. We played a decent amount of battles. We were very confident that, we could play Al Alamein and just fight infantry forces versus tanks, wait for the reinforcements to come in and win. And if these changes didn't come through a few hours before we, had set up our battle plans for like the next, because we'd obviously, the way that we do it a few days before, we make sure we all know what we're doing, right? As a command structure. So when these changes came in a few hours before, it completely screwed everything that we'd set up and everything we were working towards because of one change, which was this one. Conditions for the destruction of armies resulting from the number of remaining vehicles in them have been changed. Now an army will be automatically destroyed if there are less than 20 remaining vehicle units remaining, excluding infantry. Confrontations with such armies has always led to automatic battles, right? So that means that all of these infantry units could get 2 shots or maybe 3 shot by artillery. You know what the British had on both of these sides? Artillery sets. So pretty much what they could do is they could move their artillery forward, and if you didn't commit your men, and if you tried to move back, their planes would hit your artillery. They would just walk through with their tanks, and their artillery would just batter your infantry to death after a few minutes. So there was no way you could hold that. Absolutely no way. So we then, obviously, we had to change tactic, played on the British side, and just completely stomped on the British side. We didn't even have to, in most operations, play like a single battle, because the artillery was doing it for us. I'd just like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Cyborg James, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Matati, Moxie, Nito, Nick Graham, Alobralo, Sebastian Corona, Super Cacti, and Elove Goat and Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.